जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय गुरुदेवा जय विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्रषत् श्री श्रीमद् हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस शिला ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्रषत् श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Canto 4, text chapter 1, text 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We are reading from Canto 4, text 1, which is entitled The Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, and we are on Canto 4, Chapter 1, Text 31. Kindly respond. Athasmad Ansha Bhutas Te Atmaja Loka Vishrutaha Bhavitaro Anga Bhadram Te Visrapsyanti Cha Te Yashaha Athasmat Ansha Bhutaste Atmaja Loka Vishrutaha Bhavitaru Anga Bhadram Te Visrapsyanti Cha Te Yashaha Athasmat Ansha Bhutaste Atmaja Loka Vishrutaha Bhavitaru Anga Bhadram Te Visrapsyanti Cha Te Yashaha Athasmat Ansha Bhutaste Atmaja Loka Vishrutaha Bhavitaru Anga Bhadram Te Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Tasmad ancha bhutaste. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Athasmad ancha bhutaste. Atmajaloka vishrutaha. Bhavitaro anga bhadram te. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Athasmadancha bhutaste. Atmajaloka vishrutaha. Bhavitaro anga bhadram te. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Bhrigupati Prabhu, would you like to chant? Athasmad ancha bhutaste. Atmajaloka vishrutaha. Bhavitaro anga bhadram te. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Vaishnavis. Athasmad ancha bhutaste. Atmajaloka vishrutaha. Bhavitaro anga bhadram te. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Athasmadancha bhutaste. Atmajaloka vishrutaha. Bhavitaro anga bhadram te. Visrapsyanti cha te yashaha. Synonyms, please respond. Atha, therefore. Asmat, our. Anshabhutaha, plenary expansions. Te, your. Atmajaha, sons. Loka vishrutaha, very famous in the world. Bhavitaraha, in the future will be born. Anga, dear great sage. Bhadram, all good fortune. Te, unto you. Visrapsyanti, will spread. Cha, also. Te, your. Yashaha, reputation. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. Please respond. You will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. So since there's no purport, I'm going to read about 8 or 9 more translation really quickly until we reach the one which has a purport. Text 32, I'll just do the English. Thus, while the couple looked on, the 3 deities, Brahmā, Viṣṇu and Maheśvara, disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atri Muni the benediction. Text 33. Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. From the partial representation of Viṣṇu, the great mystic Dattātreya was born. And from the partial representation of Śaṅkara, Lord Śiva, Durvāsā was born. Now you may hear from me of the many sons of Aṅgirā. 34. Aṅgirā's wife, Śraddhā, gave birth to 4 daughters named Sinīvālī, Kuhū, Rākā and Anumati. Text 35. Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Dattātreya and the other was a learned scholar, Brihaspati. Text 36. Pulastya begot in his wife Havirbhu one son of the name Agastya, who in his next birth became Daharagni. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Viṣṛva. Text 37. Viṣṛva had 2 wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kubera, the master of all yakshas, was born. And the next wife was named Keshini, from whom 3 sons were born, Ravan, Kumbhakaran and Vibhishan. 38. Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to 3 sons named Karma Shrestha, Variyan and Sahishnū, and all of them were great sages. Purport to text 38. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, was the 5th daughter of Kardama Muni. She was very faithful to her husband, and all her sons were as good as he. So even the following verses, they hardly have any purports, but I'm just going to stop here and talk about the current verse and the ones, few of those after that. So the current verse says, you will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Viṣṇu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedan Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pricharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is it's a fantastic genealogical organization being given regarding the daughters of Manu, and it is totally impossible to remember all these hundreds and thousands of names which are related to the daughters of Manu, and then the daughters of the Prajapatis, and then their sons and daughters and their sons and daughters. So the whole family goes on here. But here we are specifically talking about one of the 7 sages, the Saptarishi, whose name is Atri Muni. And Atri Muni is born from the mind of Lord Brahmā. He is one of the 7 sages. The others are Kashyapa, Vasishtha, Vishvamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, and Bharadwaja. So these are all the 7 sages born from the mind of Brahma. And Atri Muni is married to one of the daughters of Kardama Muni and Mother Devahuti, whose name is Anasuya. She plays a very important role here. And it is mentioned here that Atri Muni prayed to God that he should get a son like him. But it is mentioned in the previous purports, immediately the one before this, that Atri Muni did not know who God is. He simply prayed to God according to his conception that I want a son like you. And all 3 came to him, Brahmā, Viṣṇu and Mahesh. And all 3 are indicating in this verse that your sons will be our partial manifestation. And in the next few verses it is mentioned how 3 sons were born to Atri Muni and Mother Anasuya, and they are Dattātreya, Durvāsā Muni, as well as the moon god. The moon god Soma or Chandra is the partial manifestation of Lord Brahma. Dattātreya is the partial manifestation of Lord Viṣṇu, and Durvāsā, who is known for his anger, is a partial manifestation of Lord Shiva. So all three actually manifested to give rise to three suns here. So today I'm actually going to focus my talk mostly in 95% on Soma, the moon god. There's a lot to learn about him. In fact, I learned a lot myself last night. It is mentioned here, Soma is one of the sons amongst the three of Atri Muni and Anasuya. And so what is the origin? Here Srila Prabhupada has given in Bhagavatam 9.14.3, quote, "From Atri's tears of jubilation, Atri Muni, was born a son named Soma the moon, who was full of soothing rays. Lord Brahmā appointed him to become the director of the Brahmins, drugs and luminaries." So that is one origin of the moon god. The second origin is, we hear that moon is actually born from the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's why we use the word Chandrama Manaso Jataha, the one who is born from the mind of Lord Krishna. And in another place we read, during the churning of the milk ocean, in the 8th canto, the full moon also appeared from the ocean. So three distinct origins. So how do we reconcile this? The moon is the son of Atri Muni, the moon is also coming from the mind of Lord Krishna, and the moon is also coming from the ocean. So which is the real story? All three are real. Srila Prabhupada gives us that all three are possible because it is according to the Vedic information, the moon born of Atri Muni and Anasuya actually appeared in a different millennium than the moon born from the mind of Lord Krishna. And this is in Canto 9, Chapter 14, where Srila Prabhupada has distinctly mentioned in his purport here. And then in Canto 8, 5.34, Srila Prabhupada has written, Soma, we are describing what is the characteristic of moon. We all love the moon. Whenever it's a very hot day and it's a full moon night, we actually go out and walk, particularly in Vrindavan, and it's very soothing to the heart and soothing to the mind. So here it is mentioned, Soma is the source of all food grains, of all strength and longevity for all the demigods, all the living entities, including the Pittas. He is the master of all vegetation. So we do know that the moon's rays have the ability to give nourishment to the vegetables, to the herbs, and those which are eaten by humans or demigods or Pittas, they all get a lot of nourishment because the moon's rays are giving their potency and strength for the vegetables to actually get completely nourished here. So Srila Prabhupada writes here very interestingly in the purport that the modern scientists believe that the moon is full of deserts. So it's very dry and it's very uneventful. So Srila Prabhupada writes here, how is it possible for the moon to be a desert when the moon itself is the source of all vegetation? So how is that possible? Those two are contradictory points, and Srila Prabhupada ends by saying, we cannot accept that the moon is a desert. This is from 8.5 from 34. So that was just a little bit about the moon. I'll get into more details here. The moon has 27 wives, and these 27 wives are the daughters of Daksha through his wife Asikni. So these 27 daughters were given to the moon god here. And what is the nature of moon god? Chandrama, also known as Soma or Chandrama. It is mentioned in Bhagavatam 5.22.10 that it has 4 different potencies, the moon. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those potency. The first one is Manomaya, the second one is Annamaya, the third is Amrit Maya, and the fourth one is Sarmaya. So what do all these 4 terms mean? Manomaya means that he, the moon, is the predominant deity of the mind. The moon is actually controlling our mind. That is what is mentioned by Manomaya. Annamaya means, means grains. That means he's giving nourishment to the vegetables and the grain. So he's providing them life. So he's known as Annamaya. Also known as Amrit Maya because he is proving to be the life of all living entities through the cooling rays that are brought down upon us. And we are in a blazing fire of material existence. So we are all very hot We're all being burnt by the material world. So when we get the cooling rays of the moon, we actually get all cooled down. So that is why referred to as Amrit Maya. And then finally, Sarva Maya means everyone is satisfied by the presence of the moon, and the moon is all pervading through its rays. Sarva means all over. So these are the four potencies of the moon: Manomaya, Annamaya, Amrit Maya, and Sarmaya. And Srila Prabhupada writes, this is a lecture on Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela in Mayapur in 1975, that there are only two Kshatriya families. One coming from the sun, known as Surya Vansha, in which Lord Ramachandra appeared, and the second one coming from the moon, the dynasty of the moon, Chandra Vansha. And we know Lord Krishna appeared from the dynasty of the moon, while Lord Ramachandra appeared in the dynasty of Surya Vansha. And Srila Prabhupada says, so you have to select a ruler from any one of these dynasties, either the sun or the moon, because these Kshatriyas are meant for ruling over the universe and the world here. So, and then how is Lord Krishna related to the moon? We make a nice analogy where we compare Lord Krishna's beautiful face like that of a moon here. So Lord Krishna is compared both to the sun and the moon. Sun, because he dissipates the nations, the darkness of nations in our heart. And the sun is very illuminating, so that also wherever the sun rises, the darkness is gone. So in the same way, Lord Krishna, through his mercy, through his knowledge, through whatever he gives to us, he's removing the nations from our heart. And at the same time, he is also like the moon. He's bestowing his very beautiful cooling glances upon us, because we are kind of burning in the fire of the material world. Sansara Davala, Nalalidha Loka. We sing that every morning here. And in CC Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 4.272, it is mentioned, in Navadvip, Lord Krishna appeared like the full moon from the womb of Mother Sachi, which is like an ocean of pure milk. So there's a lot of comparisons of Lord Krishna's beautiful face with that of the moon. Although it should be the other way around, that the moon looks like Lord Krishna's face. But just because we consider the moon to be so pretty, that's why the analogy is made. And it is also mentioned in the third canto that Uddhav, Lord Krishna's very close friend, is lamenting that the fish in the ocean, because it is mentioned the moon rises from the ocean of milk. So the fish, when they see that the moon is rising from the milk, from the ocean, they think that the moon belongs to them, like it's just one of them, like the fish. And that is the misconception of the fish. In the same way, Uddhava is thinking that Lord Krishna appeared in the dynasty of the Yadus, and unfortunately the Yadus also think that Lord Krishna is an ordinary human being just like them, just because the way he appeared. And that's not how it should be here. And then in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, it's very beautiful. I'm just going to read this. This is extremely sweet. It is mentioned in a very metaphorical language that there are many different moons, but they are all one in Krishna. There is the full moon of his face, the full moons of his cheeks, the full moon of the sandalwood pulp spot on his forehead, which is a half moon, and the beautiful full moons of his fingernails and toenails. In this way, there are 24 and a half moons, and Krishna is the central figure of all of them. This is coming very poetic teachings of Lord Chaitanya here. And it is also talked about how the moon planet is a very important residence of the demigods. This is where the demigods stay, and the moon is known for providing the Somaras. Somaras is a very, it's a beverage it's an ambrosial beverage which gives nourishment and longevity to people who actually drink that. And Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in his purports here that only very pious people can go to the moon. Only those who have conducted lots of penance, austerities, and followed a lot of pious regulations and rituals, only they are allowed to go to the moon, where they drink the somaras and they enjoy. But eventually, after their time is complete, they actually come down here. And more interestingly, it is mentioned that how these 4 places where the demigods stay, they are actually behind the Sumeru mountain. I won't go into the Vedic cosmology because it is so interesting. It's really easy to get really absorbed in this whole description of the Bhumandalaya. But here it is mentioned, on the eastern side of the mountain is the planet Devadhani, where Lord Indra stays. And on the southern side of Sumeru mountain is Samyamani, where Lord Yamaraj stays. And on the western side is Nimlochani, where the Vayu stays. And finally, on the northern side is the mountain of the moon, which is known as Vibhavari, where the moon god stays. And this is where the directions of the planets of the demigods are given with regard to the central figure of Sumeru mountain. So I'm going to talk about the moon planet itself, because what is mentioned in our Vedic scriptures, some of it corroborates with the modern observations and some of it does not. So Srila Prabhupada has expressed doubts based on his knowledge of Vedic cosmography and astronomy, because in the Vedas it is mentioned that only very special people can go to the moon, and moon cannot be approached by mechanical devices here. And in our Vedic writings, the moon is regarded as a star, and it is extremely opulent. It is full of riches and gems, and only pious people can go there here. And very interesting, I got absorbed in it so much last night when I was reading His Grace Sadaputta Prabhu's description of the Bhumandala and the planets, and it was just so fascinating. I had to tear myself away from the laptop here, but I just took a little bit of an extract talking about how the modern conception is that the moon is the closest to the planet Earth. And according to Vedic conception, that is not true. The sun is closer to the planet Earth here. And we'll see how that is. Sadaputta Prabhu has brilliantly explained this in terms of physical dimensions, which I won't have time to go over. But here it is mentioned, the moon is situated 100,000 yojanas, and 1 yojana is 7.64 miles. So 100,000 yojanas is about 800,000 miles. So the moon is 800,000 miles above the rays of the sun. So that is clearly telling us the moon is above the sun. And so the day and the night on the heavenly planets and the Pitraloka is completely governed by the waxing and the waning of the moon. When the moon is waxing, it is daylight in the planet of the demigods and night in the planet of the Pitras, known as the ancestors. And when the moon is waning, it is the opposite. It is darkness in the planets of the demigods and light in the planets of the Pitrilokas here. So it is also mentioned that above the moon, by a distance of 200,000 yojanas, are the other stars, and then the planets come, Venus and so forth here. So here it is mentioned Bhagavatam, particularly Canto 5, where the entire description of Bhumandala is given, 522. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the sun, not the moon, is the planet nearest the earth. This is Srila Prabhupada writing here. The sun is first and then the moon. And then Srila Prabhupada writes, even the Western conception of naming the 7 days, Sunday and then Monday. Sunday is coming from the sun, solar, Monday is coming from moon. So sun is before moon, that means it's closer to the earth here. And then it is also mentioned here in terms of mile, the sun is 93 million miles, that's a huge number, we cannot even comprehend it, 93 million miles above the surface of the earth. And the moon is 1.6 million miles above the sun. So how far is the moon from the earth? That is close to 95,000 million miles. It is such a gigantic figure that we cannot even comprehend it. And Srila Prabhupada writes in Srimad Bhagavatam 8:1038, so if a space capsule were traveling at the speed of 18,000 miles per hour, which is incomprehensible, such a fast device, how could it reach the moon in 4 days when the moon is 95 million miles away? At that speed, going to the moon would take at least 7 months. That a space capsule on a moon excursion has reached the moon in 4 days is therefore impossible. This is Srila Prabhupada writing here. So these dimensions are very interesting, and for more information, if you want to get into the real physical aspect, please read the whole synopsis and summary given by His Grace Sadhaputta Prabhu in his brilliant book describing the universal system. In fact, one of our acharyas, Srila Viṣṇu Chakravarti Thakur, who himself is an expert astrologer, also explains that the first planet is Surya, sun, and not the moon here. And according to this, the modern conception that the moon is nearest to the earth should not be accepted. This is Srila Viṣṇu Chakravarti Thakur mentioning to us. And then it is also mentioned here, very interesting, I actually didn't know about this, but Mother Ganga is also present on the moon. We hear how the Ganges actually came from the causal ocean. When Lord Vamandev pierced the covering of the universe, a little hole was made. And through that, Mother Ganga came. First, she went to Durvāsā, and then she went to the planets of the seven sages. And there it is described, this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:17. Then from Durvāsā to the seven planets of the Sapta Rishis, then the water of the Ganga was carried in billions of celestial aeroplanes. That water was carried because the flow was so intense. And then those planes brought the water to the moon planet. And then from moon, it came down to Mount Meru. And then from Mount Meru, it came down, yes, it falls down to the top of Mount Meru. And then finally it reaches Prithvi, the planet Earth. And Srila Prabhupada says, descending from the Himalayas. So Mother Ganga is actually also present on the moon, as is described here. And it is also mentioned that the people who live on the moon live for a period of 10,000 years. That's huge. And these 10,000 years, according to the Vedic information, one day on the planet moon is equivalent to 6 months on the planet Earth. And this is coming from Easy Journey to Other Planets, another very fascinating book here. And it is also mentioned here in Bhagavatam 5, again the whole synopsis is coming from Canto 5, that during an eclipse, another very sort of like an evil planet known as Rahu tries to cover the sun and the moon. But it is mentioned here that Rahu cannot stay in front of sun and moon for more than 48 minutes. Why? Because Lord Krishna always protects his devotees, and sun and moon are his devotees. So Lord Krishna is standing there with the chakra, and so Rahu is very careful that he should not eclipse the sun and moon for a period longer than 48 minutes here. So it's very precise description is given here about the moon planet here. So I could go on, but I just want to mention here lastly that even according to Ayurveda, when I was seeing an Ayurvedic doctor several years ago, I asked him whether I can buy my Ayurvedic medication from Amazon or in somewhere local. He says, no, you have to buy from me. These medications are specially made. We harvest the herbs and then we grind the herbs and we put them outside and we let the rays of the moon fall on those herbs. And that's how the herbs become potent in becoming Ayurvedically very nutritional, and they become palliative in their words. So if those herbs are not subjected to the rays of the moon, and they are subjected to different times, sometimes multiple nights, sometimes just for half an hour. So all these drugs in Ayurveda are actually receiving the nourishment from the moon rays. And that's how it is very important to buy these pure versions of the Ayurvedic medication, because they have been traditionally made according to the actual Ayurvedic philosophy here. So that's what I was told here. So even in Ayurvedic medication, the moon is playing a very important role here. So in the next 1 minute, because the Lord is saying that you'll have 3 sons, the moon, Dattātreya and Durvāsā. I'm not going to discuss about Durvāsā, but I'm just going to mention for 1 minute Lord Dattātreya. And this is mentioned in Bhagavatam 1.3.11. The Lord incarnated himself as Dattātreya, the son of Rishi Atri and Anasuya. And this is mentioned in the Brahmā Puran. It is said that Anasuya, the wife of Atri Muni, prayed to all the 3 deities, Lord Brahmā, Viṣṇu and Mahesh, and she said, "O my lords, if you are pleased with me, and if you desire me to ask from you some sort of blessings, then I pray that you all three combine together to become my son." This is Mother Anusuya's prayers to all the three deities here. And it is also mentioned here in Bhagavatam 1.3.28, the incarnations of Ram and Dhanvantri displayed Lord Krishna's fame, and Balaram, Mohini and Vaman exhibited his beauty. Dattātreya, Matsya, Kumar and Kapila exhibited his transcendental knowledge. So there's not much about Dattātreya actually in the Vedic scriptures. I went to a lot of sources last night, Vanipedia, Veda Base and different kinds, and these are the three references I found where Srila Prabhupada is talking about Dattātreya. There is one mentioned also in 8.14, which is very similar, that Dattātreya is the principal deity of mystic yoga. And so there were not very many references about Dattātreya, and that is why I focused my class on the moon god, Soma. And Durvāsā Muni is, of course, Lord Shiva's expansion, and we know a lot of pastimes about Durvāsā Muni. So I just want to end my class here and glorify Atri Muni and Mother Anusuya for getting such glorious children based on their prayers. Hare Krishna. Is there a mic?
Thank you for such a conscientiously researched and organized class. I'd like to offer what I hope is a clarification, and if it's not, I just turned my head here and I noticed Drew Karma's here, so I could be corrected. But my understanding of this thing with the moon and the sun, the distances, from what I can understand, Sariputta made the point that in the Bhagavatam, when it talks about Bhu, it's talking about Bhumandala. It's not talking about the earth globe. So when the statement that the moon is further away than the sun, it's talking about the vertical distance above the plane of Bhumandala. So you have the plane of Bhumandala, and basically the sun is kind of on the plane of Bhumandala, or maybe just slightly above, I don't know. But the moon is the 800,000 yojanas, or whatever it was, 100,000 yojanas above that plane. In other words, it's not suggesting that the radial, Prabhupada may have been suggesting that, but the way Sariputta reconciles that is that the radial distance from the earth globe to the moon is not greater than the radial distance from the earth globe to the sun. The radial distance of the earth globe to the sun is 93 million miles away, and according to scientists and other Jyoti Shastras and Surya Siddhanta, the radial distance from the earth globe to the moon is like very close to what the scientists say, approximately 250,000 miles.
Right.
So that's how he reconciles that point. That anyway, that's how he does it. That it's really the moon is further away from the plane of Bhumandala, not from the globe Earth. And so,
exactly.
And as far as the other point went, Prabhupada was saying about how could the moon be a desert? Yeah, but they have telescopes. And they can just crank up the magnification, and you could see pretty clearly what's going on the surface of the moon. But also Sariputta suggests in that book that you were referring to, you didn't mention it by name, that Vedic cosmography and astronomy, that it's higher dimensional. In other words, just like Mount Sumeru is very big. It's 250,000 miles, 2/3 of a million miles. It's shaped like an ice cream cone. It's 2/3 of a million miles high, and it's a 1/3 of a million miles wide at the top, the diameter at the top. It's big enough so that you should be able to see it from any place if it was in this dimension. But it's higher dimensional. It's not to say it's imaginary, it's there.
Correct.
But so the same for the moon. It's just like when you go to Vrindavan, you hear descriptions of Vrindavan, and there's all these descriptions of beautiful flowers and this, and we go and see something different because we're seeing Vrindavan at a certain level of perception, and we're not seeing. Same thing with the moon, same thing with Mount Sumeru. So that's, I think, how Sariputta explained that could be understood.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. This is exactly what I read also. because he's comparing it through the vertical distance from the plane rather than the center of the. So he was talking about two different things, the vertical distance and the radial distance. So what you said is absolutely correct. The radial distance from the earth to the sun is very massive, whereas the vertical distance is an entirely different story.
We got Judah Carmen.
Please. Yes, Prabhu. So just about the desert, I remember reading, I didn't talk about this, but some disciples were talking with Srila Prabhupada about then what is the place that the spaceship went to. And Srila Prabhupada said, that is not the moon, it could be any other planet, and maybe it is Rahu. This is what Srila Prabhupada indicated here.
Chronologically speaking, the last comment he made was in the desert of Arizona. So according to Sariputta, in the appendix of that book, Prabhupada said a whole bunch of, several different things at different times. But basically, his basic point was that they didn't go to the moon, or they certainly didn't experience the moon that's described in the Vedic literatures. That's for sure. Whether the whole thing was a hoax and it took place in the Arizona desert, or they went to Rahu, or they went to some part of the moon. Prabhupada, another argument he gave was that, they have immigration. And just like, we're clever enough to get up there, they're clever enough to divert us to a part of the moon where there's no civilization. He said different things at different times.
Correct.
He didn't just have one, explanation.
So they went somewhere, but that's not the moon. It's some other planet or whatever, some body.
He also entertained the possibility of
Correct. I read a lot about that. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you very much for such a nice class. So if Rahu is mentioned as a shadowed planet, and we know the history how Rahu came out and Lord Viṣṇu cut his head. So how is that there is a possibility that we have gone to Rahu when Rahu is a shadow planet, so there is no physical thing. So this is my first question. So and the second question is, as you mentioned, Abrigupati Prabhu also comments, so the Meru mountain is in another dimension, means it's not visible to our eyes, it's there but we cannot see it, that's what it means?
Yes.
And then when we read the descriptions in the Mahabharata, there is some instances in which Arjuna actually went to the Himalayas, he crossed the Himalayas and he went to the Kim Purusha kingdom.
Yes.
So is that Kim Purusha kingdom is still there? Like for example, if we go in a plane, since now we have more advancement than before, and we cross the Himalayas, are we able to see that kingdom there, the Kim Purusha kingdom, or how does that works?
So I'll take your questions. The first one, I think the second one, it's very clear, as Brigupati Prabhu said, the Mount Meru is on a very completely different dimension. So we cannot see it with our present eyes right now. Your first question, I'm not qualified. I have not read much about Rahu in terms of it being a shadow, but I do know how, Lord Krishna used his Sudarshan Chakra, so I cannot comment on that question because I don't have an answer for that. And your third question is, if we go beyond the Himalayas, can we see that kingdom? I don't know, because even navigating the Himalayas is not an easy job. So for those people who have, reached the top of the Everest, what have they seen? I'm not even sure. And even this kingdom, like you mentioned, Kim Purusha, is again on a different dimension, I would say. It's a completely different dimension. So people who are standing on top of the Everest, the peak, they're probably not able to see any of this. Because we're talking about very celestial elements here which are beyond our dimension, if that's correct, Prabhu. It's extremely fascinating when you read all this because it's so scientific actually. That's why it's so fascinating. And in the numbers are defined, so many yojanas, so many miles, it's just amazing. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mata, thank you for your wonderful class. I was thinking because it says that the sun and the moon are like the eyes of Krishna, And you say that they were devotees of Krishna, so how can they be devotees and their eyes also?
So, when we see the universal form, when Lord Krishna showed him, that's where we really refer to as Krishna is the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation. He's the primary creator. He glances and so forth, and Brahma is the secondary creator. So, in more of a metaphorical sense, we refer to the sun and the moon as being the eyes of the Lord. But technically, there is a deity, there is a Surya Dev, there is a Chandrama Dev, but the illumination being provided by both of these elements is coming from Krishna, because they're all devotees of the Lord, they're all servants of the Lord. So if Krishna withdraws Krishna can do anything. He can tell the sun god, I'm going to withdraw your illuminating power, and that can happen. But Krishna is giving them the ability to illuminate everything, the sun and the moon. So that is why through the eyes we see, and the illumination is coming from the eyes. So I would say this is more of a metaphor, where we say the sun and the moon are the eyes of the Lord. Please, if you would like to correct Bhrigupati Prabhu. So I would say, in the Shastras, there's so many different things which are written, like the Lord's face is like the moon, his eyes as the sun. Then you can say, if the face is the moon, then how is the eye the moon? So this is all very metaphorical allegories which are made here.
Thank you.
His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.